All right, guys. This is a. I reached out to you guys on a code red. I don't know what code red means. I just heard OpenAI talk about it and Google talk about it. But for me, everything's changed the last sort of month or two, as far as everything's changed as far as things changing, right? Everything's speeding up. I think it kind of started with Claude Code and Claude rework now, co-work. People talk about Codex now. Where you guys at?
I am maxed. I know I'm maxed because I'm working until 3:30 in the morning sometimes, and I've not done that for a decade. That is why I'm not writing any blog posts. I'm not doing anything. I'm canceling speaking engagements just because right now it is code red. This is like major stress time. AI is moving and we've got to get on with it because it's the train is leaving the station. So
Are you up till 3:30, Alex, because enjoying it so much, or because you've been productive, or what's the?
That is a very good question. I'm not normally very productive, which is why AI is quite good for me because it does make me more productive. 'Cause I get distracted very easily. Um, yeah, no, no, just because there's just too much to do. Just it just seems like, and it's all compacted. Literally in 7 days, the world can change, and the strategy that you thought you had is not the strategy that you have now, and that is very terrifying.
What do you think of Peter?
Yeah, I'm fairly chilled. We, but yes, it's like when you get a punch in the face, it shocks you, but it doesn't shock you as much if you were expecting the punch in the face, and we were all expecting this to happen. So, like, we were all following everything closely because we're all geeky freaks, and we could see the speed up coming and coming and coming. People releasing cycle windows of releasing stuff dropped from 100 odd days, 70 days, 30 days. So we felt this was coming. Obviously, you get some shocks when you can see what X model can do versus other models. So there's some shocks on the actual delivery of what things can do now. But we were all expecting the speed up to happen as it is and the output to change. I think the thing that's messing with people's heads, it's not so much the speed, it's Alex just described it. What do you do in a world of that speed when we've been trained in a certain way just because of our time and generation that we built stuff XYZ in this way, and you would test it and you'd get it out and you'd iterate. And now that world that we've got experience of doesn't work anymore. Therefore, we have to design and build in a completely new way and discover a new way of doing it. So that's the bit I think, and that's the bit that kind of messes with my head, not the fact that it is speeding up because I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I guess that's it, isn't it? It's you look at everything you're doing. Yeah, my I think my aha moments were probably Claude Code, and then 2 weeks later Claude Cowork. And the first time you try either of those, you point your Claude at your desktop and you asked it to fix 50 files and stuff, and it goes off and does this stuff, and you're looking thinking that's changed everything. That's changed everything I do. But then 10 minutes later, you're doing the same thing you were always doing. You're doing an email by hand, or you're trying to build a spreadsheet by hand, and there's just this massive disparity, I think, between what you can do if you're using the tools to the max and what we actually still do day to day. And I keep on top of this as you guys do, and I feel that.
That's the human condition. We're all crazy biological blobs of humans, and we've got exponential growth on the ability of technology to do X, Y, Z. Whereas humans don't go at that rate. We plod along, and certainly in the travel industry, we plod along behind other industries in many cases. And the gap between those two isn't getting smaller, the gap's getting wider. And I think we're all underestimating how slow humans are to adopt to this stuff. So just because the technology can do doesn't
Mm.
mean we are all going to do in a reasonable period of time. So the adoption level to a useful output outputs of this is going to be slower than a lot of people think. Not because the technology can't do it, just because we humans are not going to adapt to it anywhere near the speed that many people are thinking.
Yep.
We're creatures of habit. We stick with our old habits.
So I disagree with that on 2 points.
Of course you do.
And so my first point is that when people travel, they're looking to break their habits. So if you're trying to sell someone a service and it has to work 50 weeks of the year, it has to be something better than their existing. As soon as you are on a in your travel mindset, you're like, okay, I'm breaking my habit. I'm going to do this thing that I've never done before, and it does not have to become a new habit. It just has to be some experience that I'm going to find interesting or engaging in some way. So that's point one. And the point two is that companies are now operating travel services unilaterally. What I mean by that is that Meta has got their glasses, which can operate tourism experiences. Google and Samsung have got their glasses, which can operate tourism experiences. There's a great a YouTube video of a museum experience operated by Google and Samsung. The museum is not involved. So now we do not need to have the existing tourism industry involved in order to operate a tourism experience, in which means that the rate of adoption, the rate of movement can be so much faster because we don't have to be doing, months and months and months of business development. You just do it.
Yeah, I'll push back on that. If you jump on a flight and head out to Benidorm, there's 20 to 30 million people a year going into Benidorm doing exactly their habits that they do at home. They eat shit food, they drink too much beer, they puke up, and then they get toasted on the beach. That's the only bit they don't do at home.
Is
So
there much of that in Edinburgh?
not much of that in Edinburgh. So we have we have a bad habit in the sector because we're all freaky about it. At looking at the really exciting, nice, changing product that only a small percentage of travellers do. Whereas the holiday travel market is
Yeah.
ginormous of people doing the same stuff that they do all the time, apart from the sun shining.
I've said that about tour operators for a long time. I've said the problem with tour operators is that they're all led by former tour guides. And as soon as you're led by a former tour guide, you believe that tour guiding, every tour guide is brilliant because you were brilliant, because that's why you're now running a tour operator, whereas 80% of tour guides are not. Sorry. And whereas in hotels, the junior staff who then became the hotel managers or the receptionists or the or the catering managers. So they've been in management and have gone to senior management, whereas tour guides who become tour operators are in tour guide mode and then become tour operators. It's not a good career jump. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have a kind of a disconnect between what people think and what people do.
Well, I was gonna use the Mallorca example, but it's the same as the Benidorm example. That's one. Two is they're not trying to change every habit when they go on holiday. Even the people that aren't going to Mallorca and Benidorm, they're not trying to change every habit. They still want to have a coffee if they go somewhere. That, but let's not dwell on that. Three, it would be ironic if we're talking about this gap between the technology moving and the humans not. And Alex Bainbridge is the one that's not because he's still stuck on this thing about the AI experiences changing the world. And I don't want to dwell on this forever, but I don't think travel is about getting the information about when the church was built from your glasses, right? It's about the experience. Jump
Yep.
on the Segway, walk around with Paolo, who's born in Rome, and it's jumping on the
Is
double-decker
Paolo
bus.
human, sorry, or is
Paolo's
Paolo
a
AI?
human. It's the experience stuff, but let's not dwell. Let's look at the software world because I know Peter, you've written a lot about the software in the last few months and years. Then that relates to Claude Code, right? With what you can do now. So how do you see that unfolding? We've got all these res techs out there. They're big, a lot of big res techs, a lot of other software services companies.
You mentioned something before we jumped on this, and I'll just jump back to that. I just come off a call with a tour operator before a coaching call. One of his questions was he's invested 150 hours into learning Claude Code, and he's now asking, and he's built some nice tools with it. But he's now asking, was that good use of my time? Because this stuff is changing so quickly that's jumping ahead of what I've already built, and I'm in this ever-ending loop of going back because of what I can now do. And you got to remember, this guy's a tour operator. He's not a builder like Alex, like you. His job is delivering tours. And so he's like, should I just stop this now? And I was like, well, 150 hours in, that's not dead because you've trained your brain to understand how this stuff works. That's got huge value. The fact that it's changing so quickly and jumping ahead of you, it's just the world we're in. We've got to react to that. But having a mindset and a brain trained how to use it, I think, is a really good thing. And you've just got to accept that some of the stuff you've already built is superseded and it's dead. You've not commercialized it. You've not spent a fortune putting it out there. It's all you've cost yourself is time. I would say your time's well worth doing. But what it does mean is when you're going to be building, if you're a tour operator building, we now have hundreds of tour operators building. I didn't think that was going to happen. And it has happened. They're only doing small things, but there's hundreds of tour operators building it. You've got to do an audit of what, because a lot of them are building stuff they shouldn't be building. Because they've got a list of 100 things it needs to do. Number 35 really, really annoys them. So they're building something for it, but it's got virtually no business benefit apart from it stopping annoying them. Whereas the top three things, which should be around sales, market, and distribution, getting more customers, they should be building there, not on the little annoying things that the rest tech doesn't do for them, blah, blah. So that's in the tour operator world. If you go into Alex's world, your world, people building SaaS, I don't think it's changed that much. I know I talk about the change that much, but you just have to build something that is really useful for people and you have a big defense. Then the question is, well, do we have a big defense and a big moat against this stuff coming in? The ones that I've already built that are 10 to 15 years old, their defense is they're ingrained and people don't change easy. Back to the habits, right? I don't think saving money, like if you go into FTSE 500 SaaS, so many people are going to be changing or threatening to change to get their bills down because your bills are 5 million a month. A tour operator spending 150 a month, there's not much financial saving of certainly building or taking an AI tool over an existing tool with all the pain of doing it. So the financial benefit of this new stuff being built isn't good, but I do think the business model of all the existing SaaS from the last 10, 15 years is in real trouble. And they're not on a growth trajectory anymore. They're on a defensive trajectory of trying to keep customers and the margins are going to get squeezed. And then you're going to get a whole wave of new startups coming in, AI first startups that will work. But is it going to swipe things out in 12 months? This is 2, 3, 4 years. Again, the AI will be so far ahead of us that we will still be working on these old systems for years going forward. But you've got to say we're in a phase, just as we came into the internet and then we came into the cloud and all of these SaaS, Alex was one of the first building SaaS products. We're at the phase of new products being built and these will be left behind. And it's just in that phase. And most of them won't adjust. Most of them will not be able to adjust.
So the problem fundamentally is the timing of all of this. So if you build, and I built a software as a service business, I've got a degree in computer science, so I have a long-standing background in writing code and designing architectures and designing ecosystems and all those good things. But if you build a startup, you have to assume that it's going to take you this was the thinking pre-AI, right? You have to assume it will take you 5 years to build yourself a decent product, and then you have 5 years to scale it. Then you have to get an exit, and whoever buys you has to buy you with the expectation that they can scale it. So they're not going to buy something that's dying. They're going to buy something that they know they can scale, right? So that means you have to put another 5 years. So if you have an idea, you have to have an idea that lasts 15 years, because there's 3 5-year periods that it's got to maintain. So, but I'm changing my ideas every month now. Can't think 15 years ahead. Although that's not quite true. I did just coming up to ITB, and it's kind of reminding me that I did speak about autonomous vehicles in 2018 in ITB. So I was at that point I was 7 years ahead, which is where I knew I had to be because I know it takes 5 years build, 5 years for you to scale it, then you get an exit, and then whoever buys it has 5 years to scale it. So that was the right timing then. So yeah, but AI is very difficult because everything just changes too quickly. So
I got to WeWork quite a bit in San Francisco. The best WeWork is in Salesforce Tower. It's on like the 37th floor. I can see the bay and the bridge, and I think about
is it sinking? I
Salesforce.
think Salesforce Tower's sinking, isn't it?
Different. It's a building close by that's sinking. Salesforce Tower is the tallest building now in San Francisco. But a year ago, I'd have said people shouldn't even think about building a CRM. 3 years ago, zero chance you should build a CRM. Today, for what most people in our space use a CRM for, I think, yeah, you could just build it in Claude code. And like you started with then, Peter, the guy that spent 150 hours maybe building a CRM, that's too long for a CRM. But in a month from now or in 6 months from now, you probably don't know what a CRM is because it's just happening in the background, right? Your Claude code or equivalents just saying, yeah, I've got all this sorted, just ask me questions. Ask me for a manifest tomorrow morning or ask me this. And it's actually got a CRM that you don't really think about as a CRM. It just magically happens in the background.
I've
Well,
been saying this since this started. I've been saying the same thing, and I might be wrong on this. I could be completely and utterly wrong, but I've stuck with it. I believe it more now than back in 2022. If we believe this stuff is going to be 10 times smarter than us, or 100 times smarter than us, and I believe it is, and if we believe that, you can't possibly believe that it's going to build code and software in the way that we have up until now. If a being or whatever you want to call it is 10 to 100 times smarter than us, it's going to build something that we do not understand or recognize. And it's going to be much better than what we currently use. Therefore, most stuff gets wiped out by this stuff learning, building code is going to be way beyond what we can do. And I believe that's where it's going. How long is it going to take to get there? I have no frigging idea. It seems to be going pretty quick. But everything we understand of building, I think, is broken if this ends up just being 10 times smarter than us. And I think that's a given. Whether it gets 100 times, I don't know, but I think it's a given it's 10 times smarter than us.
so my theory on that, and it is only a theory, is that if everyone gets wiped out, the scenario is be wiped out last. So, because the political impact of wiping out 200,000 tour operators is significant. So, therefore, what is it that is the backstop to stop 200,000 tour operators being wiped out? Well, let's do digital experiences that work with tour operators. And that, so you don't, so yeah, so we may be wiped out, but the political costs will be so high that and I don't even know if politicians will be able to prevent it ever, but that's a different issue. But you have to, so you no longer have to think about can you be wiped out, but actually in what order will you be wiped out?
Yeah, you keep talking about the tour operator again. Back to that, I don't. I think we'll have more tour operators in the future because we are there is going to be less work for humans and we're going to be more productive. So there'll be more abundance. And I'm sure you watch Moonshots, Peter, because I see it in some of the stuff that you write. But and we'll have more time for travel. So I think we'll have
Yeah.
more tour. We'll have more Paulos walking us around Rome. There'll be more digital experiences as well, but there'll be more walking tours and Segway tour. Maybe not Segways, but there'll be more of that stuff.
I think if you wanted to quote me, you could quote me any which way because I've swung around on this particular point of view a number of times over the last few years. I am now pro tour guides, not necessarily pro tour operators. And I think that's where I'm at now.
I'm pro everything human. I think the value of anything human in travel goes up dramatically as this tech gets better and better and better. As humans become more useless blobs of idiots, uh, talking to their AI girlfriends, sitting in bars talking to AI girlfriends on a tweet that you sent me the day. It just all drives me insane. If we're in a world of useless humans, that seems to be we're in, anything that is human driven, that is value, connecting people, taking them out, having great experiences, to me, the value of that just goes up and up and up because everything that is administrative, simple-ish. It just gets done in the background. So where does your default go as a human to have experience? The value being with someone else or a group of people has to go up in that world. Your experience of being with other people, or most people's experience of being with other people, as at their work. They're in
Yeah.
the workplace where they socialize, get all of that human interaction. If that declines, travel may become a place where they only get human interaction, sport, travel, events, concerts, because they're not getting that. Most people's human interaction is the 40, 50 years of work they do with other people. If that declines, they're going to not want human interaction.
But
The freaks won't, but the normal people will want more human interaction.
we have to be quite careful about the wording on this because just because we want that and we need that, that doesn't necessarily mean the final consumer price for a product of that goes up. So there might be more demand for it, but there's also going to be more supply. So therefore, the price is not quite as clear cut that it's going to go up. I have a feeling that the price will go down, even though demand will go up, because I think supply is going to increase.
Design comes into that as well, though. As more things get commodified, yes, supply and demand, the price will go down if it becomes a commodity product. But then the job of a tour operator is to consistently innovate and design things that have the correct value. That, I mean, that's a never-ending cycle. So as long as people are aware of doing it, and there's a market for everything, commodified, you go for scale, like continuous redesign, high value, you keep it up there. But I'm convinced the interaction with humans, with other humans, starts to have a value that you can price higher than what it is today because we're in this weird world of people not spending any time with humans.
Yeah, I think that's right. But the other side of it is what Alex said is, and this is a bit like the Airbnb message, right? Is everyone's a tour guide. So you might only be an expert in the best Guinness pubs in Glasgow. And before you'd have to set up a company and a website and do all this stuff and work out what distribution is. In tomorrow's world, you just sort of show up, tell your agent what you do, and all of a sudden people are arriving asking for Guinness tours.
Well, it's not
Um,
just that. I think that the itinerary itself is completely different. So previously, as in today's market, it would be a 5 hour, 4 hour food tour. And tomorrow it would be have a pint with Christian in this pub for 45 minutes. So the customer experience bit is now just 45 minutes rather than 5 hours because the AI is designing the day's itinerary and goes, let's put 45 minutes with Christian in the pub. Drinking a Guinness in the middle of all of that. So you don't know, so you no longer need this 5 hour itinerary. You just have these 45-minute moments, is what I call them.
and let's
Well,
pretend that was a
that
moment that was
that's Marvel.
unplanned, that you can then go home and you never guess what happened. I met this guy in the pub. And
Well, so exactly. So I don't know that they can be, they can be effectively faked to be serendipitous. I can't even say that word.
it'll have us all
Um,
walking in different directions, bumping into each other, and yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I do think that so I do think that that's quite interesting, um, and I'm certainly all the tech that I'm building is building around the concept that experiences will now be 45 minutes long rather than 4 or 5 hours long.
Yeah, but you've got the I keep coming back. The humans will react to these changes by design, and if you're running a business that is getting destroyed by AI because everybody's suddenly wandering about with their glasses on, getting their own experience, well, then it's your job to design something that you can't do that way. Like, instead of
Yeah.
doing a food tour, that if you find out that everybody's doing their own food tours rather than commercial food tours, well, you open a cookery school. And humans react to the situation. We always have done. And you
Wait a
have to
sec.
be aware of what's happening, accept
I,
what's happening because you're not going to be able to change it, and then change your product and your business model to suit.
we're not going to be cooking, Peter. We'll have robots cooking. Why would we
No,
need to go to cooking school? Um, we don't go to school to learn how to put a gramophone record on. So why would we go to school to learn how to cook?
people love having touchy feely experiences with other people, learning from people who they look up
It's a
to.
In
I like
in
cooking.
this era, it's a perfectly good product. In 10 years' time, when everyone has got a home robot, is it? I mean, there's an argument that it could be, but it's absolutely not locked in that it is absolutely an experience that people will book. If you're 15 today, when you're 25 in 10 years' time, is that what you're going to be doing as your holiday experience? I don't know.
I'm not, I'm certainly,
I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying that it's not the 100% locked in thing that it sounds like the way you're describing it.
I think it's
yeah,
like
I'm not,
gardening. People don't have to,
I
you
would,
don't have to have a nice garden, but some people enjoy gardening. Some people enjoy cooking, right? It's what people enjoy spending their time on. Some people.
yep.
Um, I gotta run, guys. I think we could talk for hours. Let's have a chat if we should have a like an every 2 week chat or something like this, just to get the latest. But we could talk offline.
Yeah, I've got a new AI employee coming now with OpenClaw. I've bought my Mac. I've bought my Mac, little mini thing. So that is going to be super interesting because I'm going to get that AI employee who will be Sarah, who was my first AI tour guide. She will end up being, she will end up doing all our commercial onboarding. So that means she will do all of the customer communications for the whole, from when you're expressing an interest in using our technology to actually being commercially live. And that is the bit that is sinking me. So therefore, if I can get that working with OpenClaw, I'll be amazed. But I haven't got it working yet. But that is my February challenge.
You know, you have to go and put it out in the woods in like a lead box and make sure it's like all this stuff, right? Not
I'm
near
going
the
to connect
house.
it to my robot as well. See my robot behind here. Then
Yeah,
that would be very scary.
yeah. All right. Thanks for the chat, guys. Let's catch up soon.
cheers.
Cheers, guys.